My husband forgave me after I cheated on him. Now he wants the details. I want to preface my story by telling you all that I have called myself all the dirty names that you're all probably thinking of me. I rightfully deserve it. I did something unthinkable and horrendous. Despite the circumstances regarding the situation, I still have no excuses for my actions. I betrayed the man I love, and I will never forgive myself for doing so. My husband and I have been married for 3 years, together for 5. He is the perfect man, and I knew that back when we started to go out. He's smart, very good looking, loving, and sweet. He seems almost too perfect at times, and that, unfortunately, has bothered me in many ways. I sometimes think that I may not be good enough for him despite my healthy level of confidence and self-esteem, and you can use my infidelity to confirm that, I guess. Women tend to hit on him a lot and flirt knowing that he is married, but he has never paid them the slightest attention, and I know people who have vouched for that. I love him and trust him with all my heart, but sometimes moments like that will make me feel uneasy, knowing there's really no such thing as a perfect man or woman. About 2 months ago, my husband began to work feverishly in and out of work. He and his corporate team were working really hard to close a deal with another huge corporation. One day, I had asked him if he'd like to go visit his brother and his wife that night, but he said that he couldn't and that he had to meet with some of the other guys over dinner to finalize their proposal. About an hour later, I see his phone ringing in the kitchen, and it's a call from someone named Janice. I let it go, and my heart sank then and there. I didn't know a Janice, and he never spoke of one, so I assumed the very worst. Why would another woman be calling a couple of hours before he was supposed to go into a meeting with other coworkers? Our kitchen is huge, so I went over and stood on one side and waited for him to come back to see his phone. He did come back, saw the missed call, and immediately started dialing a number and walked into the dining room to talk. All I heard was, "Okay, that sounds great. Yeah, it's at 8 p.m. Okay, see you then." I immediately confronted him and started asking him questions. He got defensive and told me to relax, said I was overreacting. I just kept coming back at him and him at me for about 15 minutes when he just gave up and left the house. I was so angry and heartbroken. I had planned on visiting a friend of mine from college for the weekend but wouldn't leave until the next morning. I got so angry after our flight that I called my friend and told her I'd be driving up that night. My husband had come back home late at night and finally texted me something along the lines of, "Where the F are you, Vanessa? We need to talk." I was already in the other city by then and had completely tuned him out that night. I texted him the next morning telling him I was at my friend's for the weekend, and that's it. There was no reply. I had the deepest belief that he was with this Janice person the night before, and I was so angry and bitter because of it. We went to a restaurant that Saturday afternoon. I didn't tell my friend of the situation, but she could tell that I was looking to calm my nerves.
Hey guys, before we continue with the story, we wanted to share with you some exciting news. We're going to be on TikTok Live TV next Tuesday at 6 p.m. PST. We'll have more crazy stories to share with you. It's going to be a great show, so don't miss it. Next Tuesday, live here on TikTok.
My friend had invited a male friend of ours who also went to college with us to join us at the restaurant. After we were done eating, my friend said she was going to go home and help her husband prepare for the barbecue we were going to have the next day. Our friend and I stayed a while longer for drinks. I thought a drink or two would help me forget about what my husband had done or was doing. He knew I was married, but began to flirt with me regardless. He asked if I wanted to go to his place before heading back to his friends so he could show me his brand new car, which I loved. I thought nothing of it and agreed. We went to his house. He gave me a tour of the house and showed me the car. We sat and talked some more. He then began to rub my knee and leg at one point. Even with how my husband and I left off, I still reminded my friend that I was married, and I couldn't do that. He said he knew, but he started sweet-talking me some more. And he finally said the words that I wish I had not let get to me. It's okay to do something like this. I mean, your husband's probably done it, or is doing it now too. Those words stung and made me feel numb and mentally absent. I let him continue seducing me until we eventually had spicy sleep twice for the rest of that day. I almost immediately felt sick to my stomach and horrible after we were done. I told him I should leave and that my friend was probably expecting me. He told me not to worry because he texted her saying I was spending the night and that he'd drop me off tomorrow. The next day, I didn't feel like going to my friend's barbecue at all. I eventually went, but told her I had to leave early because of some things I had to take care of for work. I started to tear up on my drive back down home. I felt horrible even though I had a strong suspicion my husband had done the same thing. I got home and noticed there was a note on the kitchen counter. It said he had gone out with his coworkers to celebrate the deal that went through and that he'd be back later that night. I wanted to confess as soon as he came home, but when I saw how happy he was about what he had accomplished, I didn't have the courage to ruin his moment for him like that. I waited until the next day to confess. He came home from the gym and I told him I had to tell him something, and I immediately began to cry. I told him I was so hurt with what he had done and how nonchalant he was acting about it, but that I had made a terrible mistake and have no excuses for my actions. I told him what happened and that I loved him, and it was only a way for me to vent, but at the same time, I wasn't even myself. He was so crushed and speechless. I dropped down to my knees and cried in his lap and told him I loved him more than anything and that I was so sorry, and I begged him to forgive me. He and I slept in different rooms that night, and the next morning he had himself checked into a hotel. I was so devastated about what had become of our relationship and how I was to blame. I cried for 3 days straight until I got a call from him. He told me he had time to think and realized that even though I was at fault and that I had betrayed him, he made a mistake in allowing me to believe he was cheating. I disagreed and claimed all the blame again, told him I was a horrible wife and that I wanted to show him what kind of a wife I can be, a wife he deserves to have. He eventually told me he'd want to try again, but wasn't forgiving me right away. I told him I'd do whatever he wanted. Shortly after taking me back, I find out the truth about Janice and that she was truly only a coworker who was also meeting him and the other guys at the restaurant that night. I broke down when I found out and hated myself even more. He told me to shut up and stop playing the villain because the more I did, the more I reminded him of how I betrayed him and what I did. I agreed, and for 2 months now, I have done everything and anything to prove that I'm worthy of his love again, and most importantly, try to rebuild the trust he once had for me. And for 2 months, our relationship has been getting better and better, thankfully. However, just 2 days ago, my husband's friend who knew about my cheating called me and told me he wanted to talk. I knew he had not been in good terms with me since he found out what I did to my husband, so I was perplexed as to why he wanted to talk. We meet, and he tells me that he was only doing this for my husband's well-being and not mine. He told me that he had spoken with my husband, and my husband had told him that it has been unaliving him to be in the dark about what I may or may not have done with my college friend that day, and feels like he'll never be able to get past it if he doesn't find out. He told his friend that he was planning on asking me about the details of that day, everything he can think of asking. I got that similar sick-in-the-stomach feeling again. His friend told me not to go through with it. He told me to tell him that I either forgot or give him some non-graphic general answers, because if I told him the details, he would never get over it and he would be deeply crushed. I am now in a very tight situation. For 2 months, I've been telling my husband of my whereabouts and everything else that a wife wouldn't normally tell her husband. I have been truthful to a T, but now it seems like I am danged if I do and danged if I don't. If I tell him the truth and answer his questions, it will hurt him deeply. If I don't tell him the truth and don't answer his questions genuinely, I would be lying and once again being manipulative. I don't know what to do. Has anyone else been in a similar situation? What general things should I avoid saying if I decide to tell the truth? Do I have the right to deny him of his questions if I feel like it would be hurting him?
I think the thing is that OP is right. This will only hurt her partner. He will never forget that you had spicy sleep twice with this guy because you thought that he was maybe cheating with this random person.
Right.
That is his coworker. And he's never gonna, you're never gonna be able to meet these crazy expectations that he has for you. So it's just done.
It needs to be leave. Tell truth
it needs to be leave.
Because lying isn't an option.
You
definitely can't lie to him and be like, oh, I don't know.